Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Penguin Episode 3, Bliss, where a new drug gets its first test run on the sad sacks of Gotham looking for an escape, and Vic has to choose between a cross-country bus ride and life as a criminal henchman. Let's break down this episode scene by scene for all the cool Easter eggs and just amazing visual details that you might have missed. And a reminder that we have some really cool shirt designs covering all your favorite fandoms available at nerdriot.shop, which is really the best way to support what we're doing here at New Rockstars. Okay, we open this episode on the ground littered with campaign flyers for Bella Real with the slogan Real Change. This election was part of the big climax for the 2022 Batman film. These are totally soaked, and we assume that this is the Crown Point neighborhood after the floodwaters have receded, and that the delivery Vic is bringing is for Oz, but no. We soon realize that we are actually back 2 weeks earlier to Election Day, November 5th, just hours before the Riddler's seawall bombs detonated. And with that knowledge as the audience, we have to just tensely wait for the big booms that we know are coming. We spend these first 5 minutes just waiting for this awful thing to happen. On the news, you can see the official seal of Gotham City that was also used in the Batman film, featuring the city motto, Sic Parvis Magna, which roughly translates to greatness from small beginnings. This was an actual motto used on the coat of arms by explorer Sir Francis Drake in the 1500s. The phrase was also used in the Uncharted video games and film. And it also applies to thematically where both Vic and Oz began before they got swept up in this big life of crime. Vic's sister is wearing an I voted today sticker. His mother is watching the news because Bella Real represented a real possibility for change for this family, which makes it all the more tragic with what's coming. Victor came from a loving family with strong values, and he didn't want to fall into the life of a criminal. Vic tells his father, Juan, you see, you act like wanting more is a bad thing, but don't you want a better life than this? And Oz will echo this same sentiment to Vic later, which makes sense why Vic will ultimately choose to stick with Penguin in the end. He's always seen the world from this perspective, looking up at the people who have more and wondering, why not me? Vic joins Graciela on the roof later on with Calvin, one of the guys he was with when he was trying to steal Oz's rims, whom Sofia shot and killed during her interrogation of Oz in the greenhouse. We also meet Calvin's cousin Squid, whom Vic's dad mentioned sells drugs, and I feel like we're gonna see Squid again, because I kind of have a theory that in a flooded Gotham, the only survivors are things that can swim or things that can fly. So like a penguin, a squid, a falcon, a Maroni with a jetpack. And we get a shot of the seawall right before it gets destroyed, and we see a sign reading Elliott Bridge, which is probably named after Edward Elliott, one of the early builders of Gotham City and great-grandfather to Thomas Elliott, aka Hush. And then it happens. Boom, boom, boom! They think it's fireworks at first, but the pebbles on the roof vibrate to indicate the shaking infrastructure of the city. Some incredible visual effects of the neighborhood getting flooded here. I don't know what it is about the way HBO shows do the visual effects, but they're like so much better than what we see in Marvel shows on Disney+. The Riverside Freeway gets swallowed by the floodwater, and we even see each of these passing cars with their headlights get wiped out one by one. And because their headlights are still on, we even see them get swallowed up deeper and deeper into the water. The 2022 film showed us the city getting flooded from afar, but this scene gives us a sense of how tall exactly the seawalls were. And in this neighborhood, at least, everything on the first 6 floors, at least, of every building gets instantly wiped out. It's so sad to watch Vic desperately trying to call and to warn his mom, but you know from the tears in his eyes that he knows he's too late. The earlier scene focused on the red chili lights in the kitchen, and we see his mom get up from the window and try to flee, and we cut to inside that kitchen and see those same lights as the water comes in, and we know that this is the end of Vic's family. So now I'm wondering if those missing person signs that Vic stopped to look at back in episode 2 might have made him think, could my family still be alive? Are they just missing maybe? Should I be putting up missing signs? Back in the present day, Vic stares out the rainy window, kind of like Joey on Friends. Last week, the angled edge of the G in Penguin formed the Penguin's classic beak nose. This week, the hole in the G kind of forms a teardrop from Vic's eye. Oz has hooked up Vic with new clothes and pays him $1,000 per week, whereas before Vic could justify his actions as Oz might kill him if he didn't play along. Now, by taking the money, he's really culpable in all of this. Oz plans to work with Sofia, but says that her Falcone family connections aren't really that sacred since everyone's related.
All these related, you know? I mean, 60 years ago, 2 Sicilian brothers all over the toe of that boot. Now I got 3 dozen Falcones breathing down my neck.
Oh, God, this guy is just so gross. Oz takes a call from Sal Maroni in his jewelry vault bedroom, and it's just interesting that he gets his call from Sal Maroni that we don't hear, considering what happens with Nadia Maroni, Sal's wife, at the end of this episode. Like, what was the communication between the Maronis in this episode? But Vic has to answer the door to the Hangman herself, and Sofia looks straight up like a serial killer when he swings the door open. Vic stumbles through his conversation with Sofia, struggling to light the lighter, and he says that he's a mechanic who worked on Oz's car, and obviously he defaulted to being a mechanic because that's what his dad was. But remember, it was Sofia who spotted the bullet hole in Oz's Maserati, and she doesn't forget details. So anytime someone lies to Sofia, I feel like they're making a mistake. We learned that at one point, Oz was Sofia's driver, a position that led to his rise in power within the Falcone organization when Sofia got sent to Arkham. On Vic's phone, we can see that Graciela from the cold open has been trying to call him 3 times today, but he missed or ignored the call. She was the one who texted Vic in episode 2. We can also see Oz has called him a few times, as well as 2 unsaved numbers, one of which he has had a call with twice. Could this be setting up something going on later, maybe with Squid? I just think we're all on Squid watch. I think Sofia knows that Alberto didn't really tell Oz everything about their new drug, but so far, Oz is just one person in the organization she can trust in the short term. They go together to this Bliss drug operation center, and she passes the diamonds to Marco to pay him off. These are the same diamonds that we saw before, and we see some bags labeled Arkham State Hospital being unloaded from the truck. And it's just interesting how these weird mushrooms are all being grown over at Arkham. Who is over there growing the mushrooms, I wonder? We meet Sofia's chemist, Dr. Trey Bloom. There is a Batman villain named Mr. Bloom from the 2015 comics, a plant-based metahuman who sells seeds to grant superpowers and wants to wipe out Gotham and start over. I don't know if that's what they're going for with this guy, who's just like a really cool hippie, but we learned that the new drug comes from a red psychedelic sap emitted by these mushrooms. The red and white color of these reminds me of Sofia's coat last episode. This is called bleeding tooth fungi, different from a standard psychedelic mushroom. They say it's a rare strain. The psychoactive compound in the sap creates a potent euphoric stimulant. It's a completely different high, they say. And Oz is just like, so it's a potty drug. This is actually a real world fungus. And between this and The Last of Us with cordyceps, there are some real mycology nerds at HBO, and we are here for it. Also referred to as Hydnellum pecki, it's a hydnoid species producing spores on the surface and vertical spines or tooth-like projections that hang from the undersurface of the fruit bodies. The moist fruit bodies bleed bright red pigment. And yes, all the red in this episode matches the titles of The Penguin and The Batman. Oz asks Sofia, based on what he saw in the bags outside, if Sofia ever took this drug in Arkham, and she doesn't answer in this moment, but we will learn more later. Graciela joins Vic in Oz's apartment, and despite how awesome she thinks it is, I love how she never brings up, hey, was this ever like a jeweler? Because that's a vault on the wall. She asks about Calvin, who is missing, and it seems like Vic doesn't know that Sofia killed this guy he used to be friends with. Graciela plans to leave for California on a bus ride from Jersey to California. Have fun with that. He gives her his cash and tells her to kid him a bus ticket too, and that he'll meet her at Gotham Station. I've been enjoying how much the show has normalized Oz and Vic's relationship, but we have to remember that, Training Day's first act had a final act that got very, very scary because, King Kong doesn't have shit on everybody. But the suicide slushies that Vic was drinking with Oz, I think symbolize the suicidal path that he's now walking by associating with someone as violent as Oz is. Johnny Viti gives Sofia a first-class plane ticket to Rome, telling her to do what Lucas says and leave Gotham. They really weren't kidding. It seems like they're saying they just want to, Michael Corleone her, but they're actually gonna Apollonia Vitelli her.
Michele, aspettami lì che vengo da sola fino da te.
No! No,
They go to Link Size Club Apex in Chinatown. We see an anti-drug stop drops billboard. Also, up the street looming in the skyline is this universe Wayne Tower. We saw this in the Batman film and in past episodes of the show. Sofia mentions her father pushing the Triads out of the drug game. The Triads have actually been a criminal organization in many DC comics. Also, over Oz's shoulder in this shot, you can see a sign for Tri-Corner Bridge. The Tri-Corner is a triangle-shaped island on the southern end of Gotham City. Sofia refuses to be frisked, like with Dr. Julian Rush last episode. She instinctively just does not like a man's hands on her. Oz brings Link some top shelf from the 44. The 44 below, of course, is the VIP club and the Iceberg Lounge. And boy, did he. I think that's 4 boxes of Macallan 18. We priced that at $350 a bottle, and the Macallan M, $6,000. Also, a couple bottles of this type of champagne and a bottle of Remy Martin cognac worth a couple $100. Yikes. Oz says that they're calling the drug Bliss, and it kind of seems like he made up that title on the drive over here. It seems like he didn't run it by Sofia first, but I like that she just kind of stays silent and goes along with it, but takes note of it. Like, someone's making decisions without looping me in.
Maybe it's because it's fall and I'm thinking of school, but it feels like everybody I know is learning something new. I figured I'd brush up on my creative writing skills, and the easiest way to do that is to visit Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. It's got thousands of classes led by professionals from basically every creative industry, and it's an incredible incredible way to pick up a new skill, whether or not your interests are in photography, graphic design, music, cooking, business, marketing, or a wide variety of other skills. If you used Skillshare before, you'll notice that now they have smarter class categories, including 3 new class topics: creative careers, creative inspiration, and AI and innovation, plus the ability to find classes by software and material. For creative writing, I started with the Develop Memorable Fictional Characters Learning Path, a set of hand-picked classes meant to be taken in order that build on one another and let you learn at your own pace. I took 3 lessons and was able to not only write a short story of my own, but also appreciate the craft that goes into, every movie or show that I break down. The first 500 people to use the link in the description to sign up will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Start your year off right with Skillshare, and thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Outside, a GCPD car pulls up behind Vic, and we see a sign in the background for the Gotham Renewal Corporation. This is actually mentioned in the 2022 The Batman film, founded by Thomas Wayne, that got started as a program to revitalize the city, but ended up a corrupt enterprise that the Falcones got a piece of. The cop pats down Vic and finds a wad of cash, and we think, uh-oh, is this gonna be a civil asset forfeiture situation? And it kinda ends up going in that direction. Vic uses his stutter to authentically slow down this moment, give himself time, and kind of just let the cop easily take this bribe without, it being forcefully pushed into his hand. Link demands a personal call from Johnny Viti himself before setting up a sit-down with his boss, Chau. At lunch, Vic recounts the story to Oz, the cop, and the waiter drops by right as Vic is about to tell Oz that he wants to leave. Vic stutters on steak frites, and the waiter impatiently finishes the sentence for him, but Oz shuts down that waiter quick, wanting Vic to speak for himself.
Let him wait. Take up space.
This is how Oz approaches his limp. Like, he doesn't rush to keep up with everyone. He just kind of moves at his own pace. Throughout the conversation, Oz has been eyeing this other table with the 2 women, and when one goes to the bathroom, Oz makes his move on Tina Falcone. This is Luca's wife and the woman Johnny Viti is sleeping with. Sophia and Oz bust in on the 2 of them doing it, and they order Johnny to call Link to signal his support of the 2 of them. Johnny asks if they're working together, and Sophia says Oz is working for her. And Oz, the way Sophia let it slide before, he lets it slide now. Johnny insults them both, calling Sophia a psychopath and really making the term penguin feel like an insult to Oz.
People keep the penguin around as entertainment because everybody knows that you're a goddamn joke.
Oz stuffs his phone in Johnny's mouth, and because it's a smartphone, the screen starts to crack and crack, and when I heard those cracks, I'm like, ugh, is that his teeth or his jaw? No, it's just the glass, but just the sound effect was, ugh, enough. So Oz, rocking a villainous Kingpin-esque white suit, preps his team at the Apex Club to move some Bliss. Vic's the bagman, and making the sales are Eve and the women we met last week, including cam girl Roxy. Vic's phone background has this interesting cyberpunk image. I want to say it was like Ghost of the Shell meets Tron. We found this stock image that I guess you can actually buy. Oz notices Vic looking at his phone and suspects from this little tell that Vic is distracted with some other place he wants to be. Only after this do we cut back to Sophia to realize, whoa, she was right there for this whole moment and probably also clocked that Vic has something going on the side. Sophia also eyes Eve as she walks away, and just a reminder that Eve was Oz's sole alibi on the night Alberto was killed. Sophia forgets nothing. You'll notice Sophia in the scene is back to covering her neck, this time with a black ribbon or a scarf, maybe to hide some fresh fingernail scratches. Johnny Viti's earlier attempt to drive a wedge between Sophia and Oz has been somewhat successful, as Sophia now asks Oz if it was worth it what he did to her 10 years ago. She's referring to Oz, her former driver, siding with Carmine when Sophia was put into Arkham, and Oz accepting the job to run the 44 Below in the Iceberg Lounge. Really, Sophia just brings us up because she saw Oz taking command in these orders to Vic and Eve and the rest of the women, and wants to just kind of check his ego ahead of this coming sit down with the Triads. Now, this Bliss sells like hotcakes, way faster than you would expect some random brand new drug on the market to move in a single night. But based on what Sophia says later, since it's only been 2 weeks since Gotham's flooding, these partiers are desperate for a psychedelic escape from their eroding city. Zhao is played by actor François Chau, who also had a role on The Expanse with the actress who plays Nadia Moroni, and he's had a role in DC as Mr. Keo in Birds of Prey, but we should all know him best as Dr. Pierre Chang on Lost, the cryptic scientist from the Dharma Initiative who hosted a series of creepy instructional videos. Now, this actor actually gave some interesting insight into his character, how he's going to be in 4 episodes on the season, and how this character will interact with Oz on the series during an interview with the Traversing the Stars podcast.
Penguin is trying to get all the different criminal groups in Gotham City together. So there's a bunch of us. There's the Irish mob, the Italian mob, and I'm of course the head of the Tong.
Now, maybe it's a bad trip from the Bliss contact high that must be on everyone's breath, or maybe just PTSD, but Vic begins to hallucinate the bass dropping as the seawall explosions that he saw on the rooftop 2 weeks prior. One has a shockwave that knocks him to his feet, spilling the Bliss vials, which now we notice vibrate among the rooftop pebbles. The way this is shot is just so effective, where just on the side of the frame, based off of where Vic turns, it looks like he's both simultaneously in the club and on the rooftop. Now that video wall projecting the silhouettes of dancers is made to look like victims covering their ears from the explosions, and one pressing against a window or a wall as floodwater gushes around her, then a man and a woman both drown in the water, followed by a from below shot of several corpses being washed away by the flood. It's all very horrifying. While this is happening, Sofia says that she and other Arkham patients were treated with Bliss to keep them sedated. We have to assume that Dr. Julian Rush was involved with this, whom I was also thinking about with just the shifting red lighting in the Apex Club, how it matches the device that he used on Sofia in the therapy session episode 2. I'm wondering if they might be setting him up to be like a Dr. Hugo Strange figure. Sofia says that Bliss gives the ultimate escape and allows you to forget where you are, which means whoever controls its sail will control Gotham. While one can imagine the appeal for people trying to disassociate from a no man's land situation, I do think that's where Gotham is headed. Sofia's description plays over this panic attack that Vic suffers while he's dancing in a sea of Bliss heads. And we have to wonder from this, is this an example of why he might need Bliss? Or if he is breathing in some Bliss from all these dancers, does Bliss actually make things worse for you? And was she on a bit of Bliss back in that moment at the beginning of episode 2 in the therapy session with Dr. Rush? I think we have to assume she was. When Chau signals that he's not that interested, Sofia says fine, she can go to the Neon Dragons or the Odessa Mob. The Neon Dragons were a gang that appeared in a Batman and Robin comic in 2009, and the Odessa Mob has been a powerful Russian mafia organization in Batman comics since the 2000s. When Graciela texts Vic again, we see that her 9:05 p.m. text, "See you in a couple hours," was responded to by Victor with a thumbs up. So at that point, he was still planning on meeting her, but it was his panic attack that delayed him. Oz finds him in the bathroom and sees the text, and he assumes that Vic was gonna rip him off and run off with this girl with all the money. But Vic says, no, that wasn't the plan. He just wants to leave, and it's not because of Oz, it's because of everything. He feels like a hostage, and Oz basically proves him right. He puts an actual gun to Vic's head and tells him that despite all the opportunity he gave him, he just feels like it's a gun to his head. But you are putting a gun to his head right now. But he's able to kind of like turn this into a Tony Soprano style pep talk. And he tells him that he can have more than his father because the game is rigged and you gotta do whatever it takes to get ahead for yourself. I am reminded, not just of The Sopranos, but of A Bronx Tale, when Sonny takes Calogero under his wing to tell him that he could be better than his bus driver father by pursuing a life of crime. He does let Vic leave, and Vic takes Oz's Maserati. And I'm thinking, oh good, this is a way better way to drive cross country than to go in a friggin' bus. Over this section, we hear Bob Moses's Broken Belief from their 2022 track. It's an electronic song with just a really great beat and a chorus that really describes how Vic is feeling about Oz in this moment. So baby, you say that we're free, you've taken what you wanted from me, you've kept me down on my knees for so long, a victim of your broken belief. But Vic just lets the bus and Graciela leave without him. A sign on the side of the bus is for the Gotham Department of Public Works. We are here for you. Visit our website to see our strategic plan summary. And I kind of feel like Vic in this moment is like, you know what? I'm gonna be there for Oz. Oz finally admits to Sofia that he screwed her over, but still claims that he ain't no rat or rata-alata. He told Carmine something that ultimately got Sofia sent to Arkham, but he didn't want her to be sent to Arkham. I don't know if we can believe him here, but I assume that this is some secret that Oz knew as her driver that would have made her look guiltier when Carmine was looking for someone in the Falcone family to take on the identity of the Hangman. And I say that because Sofia says that she's not the Hangman. I find this line very interesting because I'm wondering, does she mean that she doesn't just want to carry that moniker anymore, or she might have like taken the fall for someone else in the family? Because you would think someone like her, if she actually just killed a lot of people this way, the way that she was with that little girl Gia at the funeral last episode, she wouldn't be that afraid of people thinking this about her. She certainly wouldn't be that afraid of Oz thinking that about her. She wants Oz to be kind of afraid of her. Next, Sofia mocks Oz about not being a capo or a made man, but Oz says that for someone like him, not born in privilege like Sofia was, it was a big deal for him to get as far as he has. Sofia says that she doesn't know how to trust Oz, and he says,
how about I keep showing you how?
And just when it seems like things will be okay between them, Nadia Maroney pulls up to hold them both at gunpoint and say that she's been watching Oz and hint at the fact that he has been playing both sides of this, which has got to make him look pretty bad in front of Sofia. Vic, though, pulls up at just the right time and pulls a Walter White to plow the car into one of the Maroneys. Oz, now separated from Sofia and from the Maroneys, says to leave Sofia behind. We don't see Sofia or Nadia in the aftermath, but we hear some shots fired at the car. And it has started to rain as they drive off, like the rain Vic saw in the window in the earlier scene of the episode when Oz barked at him to not smear the glass. Rain reminding him of the floodwater that pounded the window and swept his family away from him. As Oz says, "We're in it now," Vic just feels like he's drowning in that same water. Comment down below with your thoughts on this episode. Follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.